And tonight we're going to talk about 3 ways to silence the ego. And so when we get to the end of our understanding about ego and how it operates, then I'm going to give you these 3 quick keys that you'll be able to remember. And I'm going to tell you what they are now. Will you say them back to me? You ready? The first one is, I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, put some energy into it, like, I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, good. The second one is, so what?
So what?
Or you could say, who cares?
Who cares?
And the third one is, why?
Why?
Okay, so those are the 3 we're going to learn tonight. I don't know. So what? Who cares? And the third one is why. So before, we need to lay some background information for awareness. Why talk about the ego? Because it is the number 1 factor. In fact, it is the only factor that's keeping you from bliss, from love, from happiness, from experiencing heaven on earth, from having the passion work that you want to do, and the love of your life, and peace. It's the only thing, the ego, that's it. There is nothing else. It's the only factor. And the ego is what is keeping you in lack, limitation, suffering, and fear. And the ego is the only factor that's keeping us separate from love and freedom. Judah said recently, yes, I'll let Judah talk about this. Yes, there are only 2 things your soul wants, dear one. Your soul wants to love, to be love and to give love, to be love and to give love, giving and receiving unconditional love. All true love is unconditional. The kind of love that we are speaking of here, my dears, is the love that is immovable in the face of any accusation, any unwanted circumstance, any hurt imposed by another. Love, this love is immovable, unshifting, unchanging, steady as a rock. Love, your soul wants love and it wants freedom. It wants freedom. Your soul wants to be who and what you are. Nothing added, nothing taken away, nothing demanded, no obligations or expectations, just simply you being you, your beautiful, wonderful, unique self, your very unique expression fractal of God that you are. These are the 2 things you want, love and freedom. And we agree that ego is the one thing that would keep you from these 2 things that your soul wants. Good. So, our 5th dimensional self, which is our higher dimensional self, is the part of us that's eternal, that existed before we were born, that will continue existing on after we die. This, our higher self, our higher dimensional 5th dimensional self, it's perfect, it's flawless, it's light as a feather. It flows, it's in ease, it's not anxious, not worried. It's whole, it's expansive. It has enough love to embrace everybody all the time. It's the part of us that is God, that is like God. This is our higher dimensional self. And this is who you really are. You're not all the rest. You are not your ego. Your ego is not you. So one of the things that I put in the notes is that we want to stop saying my ego. So if I slip tonight and say my ego, you guys say, no, it's the ego, not my ego, right? So tonight we're going to really make a distinction between this ego so that we can recognize the ego, not my ego, the ego, and we can begin to distinguish it and separate it out from ourselves. We're going to make a clear distinction between ego and our higher self, our 5th dimensional, perfect, flawless, light as a feather self. All right. The ego is all of our mental and emotional conditioned responses to the environment. And it's a physical response system that we all have. It's part of being human. It's, in my opinion, it's overly developed, overly stimulated, and way overused in our modern day experience. And we've come into this place through our really toxic way of living. No matter how good you have it in life, there's still a lot of toxicity, right? We eat toxic food, we have toxic media, we're breathing toxic fumes, we have toxic ways of relating to each other, thinking, believing, toxic political systems. So we all have some traumas with little t's. Would you agree?
Yes.
It's part of the package. I mean, it's like the whole way that society is set up really is not conducive to happiness. So the ego is this physical response that we have, and it originates from our limbic system, from the amygdala in the back of our brain. So this, was a God-given gift to us, this amygdala and this limbic system. And when we were cavemen, it gave us the awareness to code things as a threat. Tiger, I'd better fight or I'd better run. Fight or flight, right? We're all familiar with that. But yet we're in our society, we have less and less of those kind of real, true, authentic threats. Would you agree? You're hearing the air conditioning tonight. It's so lovely and cool. We have clean water to drink. We've all probably eaten today. So we have fewer and fewer and fewer real threats. But our amygdala is still hard at work, coding everything that we see, everything that's said, everything we think. It's hyper vigilant, like that caveman who sees the lion or the tiger or the bear. So this amygdala is a threat detector, and it has us standing at the ready. Fight, flight, freeze, or fade. Disappear, right? Blend into the bushes. We do all of these things, don't we, in our everyday life? Fight. We flee into alcohol. We flee into our bedrooms or into depression. We fight back by being angry or hostile. We freeze. We just don't speak up for ourselves. We fade. We quit being who we really are, right? We give up in the face of the different threats that we face. And so our amygdala is constantly at work assigning a value to everything going on. Positive, this is positive, that is negative. This is a threat, this gives me pleasure. And we used to think that the amygdala only coded things as threats, but scientists are now discovering that actually it also codes things as being pleasurable. So when this part of us is overactive, guess what? That leads us to, it leads us to, we all do it, it's a lifestyle of judging. This is positive, that's negative. This is a threat, this is not. This is gonna make me happy, this is gonna make me sad, right? We're constantly doing that. It's really unconscious. And so this kind of duality that stems from our amygdala, the word duality means the way that we have of classifying everything as good and bad, right or wrong, white and black, left and right. And this is the kind of polarized separateness that's so deeply ingrained in our culture. So here's an example for you of how our amygdala would work. I brought a little sewing needle tonight. So somebody here might see a sewing needle and think, oh, that makes me think of my grandmother. She used to make dolls for me. or she used to make little handmade quilts for me. And so your amygdala, perhaps at a very young age, coded that as pleasurable, a sewing needle, right? For somebody else, maybe when they were little, they stepped on a needle and it went in their foot and it was a big drama and they went to the emergency room and had to have surgery and have the needle removed, you see? And so forevermore, whether you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, you would code a needle as a threat, right? So see, we have so much conditioning in this area from our amygdala. So tonight we're going to call this limbic system phenomenon the ego, because that's what it is. So Judah wants to talk about why this is important. Yes. So this is the big picture we want to share with you from a very more cosmic perspective, and it is this. Vessel is correct. This overactive fight or flight system in modern humans is no longer serving you well. And so as you are in a process, humanity as a whole, and you in particular, because you're the sort of person who is here at a gathering such as this, you are evolving into a different sort of human. We're going to call you a new human. And a new human is not primarily driven by their amygdala, their limbic system. They are not driven by fear. They are not judging things as threat or pleasurable and so on. The new human is centered in the soul, in love and freedom. They are operating from the heart, not the brain, you see, the heart chakra, emanating love, emanating peace and joy, and stable, emotionally, mentally, physically centered and stable. And this new sort of being is operating at high levels of consciousness, not from a place of fear. And so there is a physical and physiological evolution that is happening now, you see. Your bodies are being upgraded to be able to contain more volumes of white light energy, you see. Yes, we will pass out these upgrades this evening. And yes, to be more piloted by the heart, and the ego mind being brought back into a more appropriate level of operation for this day and time, and for this segment of humanity's evolution. Good. Does that make sense to you guys? So when the system is overactive, it keeps us operating in these survival paradigms, and or in desire and craving things. And so when the fear-based mind is ruling this ego, it's keeping us in those lower realms of consciousness from our map of consciousness, keeping us down here in the fear, despair, disdain, punitive, denying, grief, pride, all of those, the stuff we don't want, right? So here's an analogy for you, and I'm sorry I can't give you a more organic analogy, but I think we can all relate, and I think it's helpful. So I'm going to give you a metaphor of yourself as being like a cell phone. Okay, I want you to imagine that when you were born, you were like a brand new cell phone in the box that had never been used before. Okay, brand new in the box. And when you were born, as that cell phone, you were aware, open, operating, you were blank, no apps downloaded, brand spanking new, shining. Except for one. There was one loaded in the factory, the heavenly factory, and it was called the app of past life karma. Factory installed. And as you grew, apps, the people around you began downloading apps on you, right? Like how to sit still, how to make good grades, how to be kind to others, and the things not to do, like Don't throw temper tantrums. Eat your vegetables. So some good apps, right? And some not so good ones. And we all have them. And then somebody along the way installed a wallpaper on your phone of guilt. And so guilt is the background for all of these ego programs that we have. So keep in mind, you're not your ego. The ego is programs. They're apps downloaded on you, the cell phone. Okay, so adults, they loaded us up. By the time we get to be the age that we are now, have you ever picked up your phone and when you picked it up, you realized there were like 20 open windows on it? 20 open apps? Have you guys ever done that?
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, what? I didn't close all of these? No wonder my phone's barely working. It's not holding its charge. This is how we are as adults, right? We can't even hold a charge. We go to get an acupuncture treatment from a master and 2 days later we're exhausted again or off kilter or whatever. It's because we've got all these programs that we're running and it's sucking us dry. It's draining the battery of our life force energy. And we have our favorite ones that we use, you know, right? Like maybe our favorite one is victim. Oh, my victim app. Life is being done to me, you know? And maybe that app, that application was loaded when we were a child. Maybe we were really, truly victims of some horrific abuse or a true trauma. But that app is still on there and we're still using it every day, even though we're completely safe and nobody's hurting us. And it's literally ruining our lives. And we've begun to think this is who we are, right? So we get to be these adults with all these apps and it's sucking our lives. So tonight is the night that we begin to delete, right? And angels rock at helping us supernaturally delete these things. You have anything so far, sweetie? He's zoned out. So the ego keeps us attached, like people addicted to their phones. You ever seen somebody, I was out somewhere not too long ago and I couldn't believe every single person in the line had their head buried in their phone and nobody was looking at each other or speaking. So the ego is like this. It keeps us attached, right? The ego tells us that we need to fix, control, change, understand, know something that we don't know, and then do something about it. And it keeps us on this hamster wheel. I've got to know something more, do something more, be something more. I've got to control this. I've got to understand this. There's something I don't know yet. And if I just knew that one thing that I don't know, then I would finally feel better and finally be happy. And around and around and around, right? And so the ego thrives on this insanity of this hamster wheel. It thrives on conflict. It thrives on drama. It thrives on complexity. It thrives on needing to be right. And so when you find things suddenly getting really complicated, or for me, like one of my big cues, poor Chuck, he's the one that has to deal with all the ego stuff with me. One of my big cues is when I find myself wanting to justify something I'm doing, or argue, or defend, or explain. I love that acronym, J, justify, argue, defend, or explain. When I'm doing one of those four things, that's just the cue for me that the ego's, running the show. So here's another little metaphor for you. I want you to imagine the ego as a coin. Because it's tricky, it's slippery. That's why we're taking the time to work on this tonight, so we can really begin to identify it. Not to beat ourselves up over it, but just to say, oh, look at that. There's the ego again. It's not me. I'm going to delete that app. And if you can't delete it in the moment, if you're just caught up in using it, my fear app or my victimization app. If you're caught up in, don't worry about it. Just be aware. Oh, here I am. I'm doing it again. It's not me. It's the ego. I can't really stop it right now, but I am aware, and it's okay, because one of our keys tonight is so what. Everybody say, so what? So what? Who cares? Right? Awareness is key. So coin. Ego coin. I want a good night's sleep. I want to lose 10 pounds. I want a better job. I want a raise. I want. We've all got tons of them, right? Flip side to that coin, I don't want. I don't want to get divorced. I don't want my spouse to cheat on me. I don't want to get married. I don't want my kids to embarrass me, whatever it is. So those are two sides of the coin. I want, I don't want. When you're caught up in the I wants and I don't wants, that's definitely ego. When we're in our higher dimensional soul, we don't want anything. Everything's okay. Everything is all right. Even if we're sick in a hospital, in pain, there's something in us that knows everything's okay. Maybe I'll get well. Maybe I won't. But everything's okay. Right? The soul is always okay. The coin, pleasure, pain. There's that amygdala again, right? It's coding everything as pleasure or pain. Two sides of the coin. I must add something to myself to be okay. Another yoga class, another Reiki course, something, a different job. I must add something, and then I'll be all right. And the other side to that is, I need to get rid of this person, this relationship, this car that keeps breaking down. So see, the ego always has to either add something or want something taken away. Two sides of the coin, pride, insecurity. Pride, insecurity. You know, these show up for me, like here's a personal way that it shows up for me. Sometimes I get the most beautiful, sincere, gratitude-filled notes from you guys and other people, and they really encourage me. But then what about when I get the really nasty ones? And I get them.
Who cares?
Who cares? Who cares? So what? Right? But if my immediate response is feeling that pride, like I want to defend and explain what Judah meant, or why I did what I did, or charged the amount that I charged, or whatever it is that they're criticizing about, when I feel that, that's pride, that's my ego. Or on the other side of the coin, if I feel insecure, like, oh, maybe they're right. You know, maybe I am a fraud, or whatever. So they're two sides of the same coin, all ego. So we're going to toss the coin. All right, it's almost time to channel. So here are two things that I want you to know about the ego. The ego's a liar. It's a liar. So whenever you feel afraid, remember, when you feel the fear, let yourself feel it in your physical body as a sensation, and don't judge it. And know that fear is always built on a lie. And if you deal with the lie, the fear will die. So when you feel afraid, look for the lie that your ego is telling you. Look for the lie, the application, the download, the conditioning that's telling you a lie, and get to the bottom of that. Did you have something, sweetie? No? Okay. This is another big one. The ego tells you, everything I'm doing is to keep you safe, to keep you from getting hurt, to keep you from getting harmed. Everything I'm doing, I'm your friend. I help you get what you want, and I help you to make sure that you don't get what you don't want. That's what the ego tells us, and it's a lie. The second thing I want you to know about the ego, first, it's a liar. Second, it's insatiable. It's never satisfied. It demands to know. It wants to know. It wants to know what it wants and how it can get it, how it can keep it in order to be happy. Or it wants to know what it doesn't want and how it can make sure that that thing never happens. All right, so let's let Judah channel the 3 strategies of I don't know, who cares, and why. Oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Yes, all of these programs, and we would love to delete a bunch of them tonight. And what we won't finish deleting tonight, we would say, as long as you're aware of them, get excited, celebrate, be happy, because you're halfway there. Just the knowing of it, and the recognition, awareness of a conditioning response that you don't want. Your freedom is coming. Now, we already hear some of you out there asking, how do I know if this is past life programming? And if so, what do I do about it? Well, we're going to tell you right now. If you have a particular issue over which you lack any ability, it seems, to change your response, it seems ingrained, it's causes you immense suffering, it seems to repeat itself over and over as a pattern, and it seems to be very stubborn and difficult to remove, we would say that is where your past life karma resides. So, for instance, this vessel had quite an interchange with a family member, an extended family member this week, and she behaved in ways that are uncharacteristic for her, not the norm. And so when she came to us in inquiry, saying the strategy, why am I acting so uncannily different than my normal self, and finding it so easy to get swept away in my ego here, the ego here? And it is because with this particular soul, who in this lifetime is an extended family member, she has karma with this one. So the pain goes back into it. It originated in a past life, and that is why she is being so highly reactive and uncharacteristically different than her usual natural, we will say, self. Does this make sense? And so if and when you encounter some very highly resistant pattern in yourself or in another, you simply ask, hello, Judah, or whoever your guides are, is this a past life issue, this situation? And you will hear a gentle internal in your inner being, yes or no. And then you may simply ask us to tag and treat it and clear it. And it's very simple. You simply set the intention, Judah, please clear this in all realms of time and space. In fact, we would say it's just a good habit to be in when you're doing work, self-inquiry work, meditation, work in releasing the ego, to go ahead and say, I let this go. I release this in all realms of time and space. My past lives, my present, my future realities. Why not? Why not just remove the program on every level, the conditioning on every level? Why not put the ego to rest completely? And so don't be afraid or freaked out by past life karma. It's a little older, but have you noticed that things that are really old are easily disintegrated? Are they not? And so let them turn to dust. And how do you get rid of this past life stuff? Well, we've told you that you can ask for our assistance, tag and treat this, help us, angels, to get rid of this. But a simple principle is this. If you conquer it in the moment, you've conquered it for eternity. If you conquer it in the moment, you've conquered it for eternity, you see. So if your button is pushed by, let's say, let's say if the ego responds, let's say, let's say your mother's critical, and every time your mother criticizes you, you feel the pain, the reactivity, and so on. If you can conquer that in the moment, and you can do it consistently going forward, and whatever karma it is you're experiencing through this uncomfortable suffering and painful relationship with your mother, it will end for eternity, you see. All right, let's talk about I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. See, the ego has an insatiable desire to know, to have all the answers, to get it right, to be right, and wants everyone else to align to what it thinks is best. You know, this is the most standard understanding of ego, correct? Pride. I don't know is a remedy for this. When you were born, you knew nothing, nothing at all. It didn't bother you one bit, did it? No, you simply lay in your mother's arms and nursed at the breast and enjoyed breathing in and out and just being what you were. You didn't think of yourself when you were a baby. You didn't say to yourself, well, I'm a girl, or I'm a boy, or I'm light-skinned or dark-skinned, or I'm French, or I'm American. No, you didn't think about any of that at all, did you? There were no programs there. You were wide open, and you simply just enjoyed existing. And you didn't feel stupid because of it. You were quite comfortable with not knowing. Would you agree? But your ego, your amygdala taught you that you'd better learn some things or you're going to get hurt. Or you better learn some things or you're going to suffer. Like dear Edgar Casey, when he was a little boy, his father would beat him soundly if he didn't make good grades. And so he learned to lay the books under his head on the pillow at night, and when he would wake up in the morning, he knew all the information in the books. This is how he learned that he was a psychic child, you see. But you see that the ego needs to know, wants to know, in order to survive, to thrive, to avoid pain. So now here you are, however old you may be in this room tonight, maybe you're 12 or 15 or 60 or 40 or 70, and you know a lot of things. You've got all of these, as the vessel shared with you earlier, all these apps on who you are, all this information download about how to be, what to say, what not to say, what to wear, what not to wear, where to go, where not to go, what kind of education you should have or not have, and all of these things. Myriads and myriads and myriads and myriads of useless information. And it's blocking your life force energy. And so thinking you know can hinder you from moving onwards and upwards on that map of consciousness to that high place of your higher self, in which you are connected to all knowledge and to the one who knows all. Because together, you see, together in universal consciousness, we know all things and have access to all things, and to the source of all knowledge and all wisdom, ancient, present, and future. But in order to make our way to that connection and to being who and what we are, we have to drop what we think we know, which is the egoic mind. So when you're in a quandary, or you sense your ego at work. You want to justify or argue or defend or explain, or you're feeling afraid or grieving or whatever is going on for you. Throw up your hands to us, to Source, and say, I don't know. Let's hear you say it.
I don't know.
I don't know. And then there, my dears, you have a blank page, see? And then something beautiful can begin to occur to you. A thought you've never thought before. A thought you've never thought before. An inspiration, a holy idea from the higher mind. An invention, a creation that is something that's never occurred to you before. Maybe something that's never occurred to anyone on the earth before. This is where you become of a higher mind, an Einstein, a Tesla, a Rembrandt, a Michelangelo, you see. This is where you begin to discover who you really are, your magnificence, your unlimited possibilities when you say, I don't know. And this vessel has gone through many years of an intense reckoning, in which she has had to say, I thought I knew. I thought I knew. They told me X, Y, and Z, and now I realize that I don't. And this requires some real humility and also some grief. To say, wow, all those things that I thought were going to work didn't. Now I have to let them go. Good, good, good. Any questions before I dive into the next one? You guys doing okay? You still ready for more?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, the next one. Who cares? So what? Oh, yes. We love this one. Who cares? So what? Good. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Because this vessel works with many, many of you, and sometimes she sees on your face the disappointment. But I've been on this spiritual journey, you say, for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Why am I still suffering? Why is my life this way? And your ego, the ego, is causing you to suffer because you believe a lie that you should be something other than what you are, that you should be further along, that you've added on enough things in your spiritual practice that you should be further along. You see the judgment there? Do you hear it? I have done this and this and this and this and this. And so angels and God and Source and Judah, you owe me something because I have done all these things, yet I'm still suffering and I'm mad at you. And so all these expectations for outcomes, the ego demands an outcome, you see? It demands an outcome for all its effort. There must be a payoff, a reward, says the ego. And so when you see your ego, when it's glaring at you in the mirror, you can say, so what? So what? Now, in this interchange that the vessel is speaking of, that was so painful for her this week, first of all, the pain is the indicator. No one should be able to cause her pain. There's nothing wrong with her. She's perfect. Doesn't matter what she does, says, does, doesn't do, should have, and so on. We like her just the way she is. You see, we don't need to change her. And this person had some words to say. Judgmental words. I feel like you're this, and I feel like you're that. And you should do this. And well, if I were you, I would have done that, and so on. And so this is characteristic of the ego in the other, you see. We will share this characteristic. The ego likes to make lists of evidence to convict you or to convict the other. Does anyone recognize this?
Yes.
So when you find yourself lying awake at night thinking about, all the things that your partner said or didn't say, or your boss, or your child, or so on, you see, then the ego is acting like a lawyer collecting evidence, and then the ego will become the judge and pass sentence, and then the ego will be your jailer and or the jailer of the other, and carry them off to serve a punitive sentence. You see? So if you blow it, and you blow it big or in others, just say, so what? So what? So what? Who cares? Now, we wouldn't necessarily recommend that you say that to someone else. You might, if you have a spiritual partner and you are in agreement. For instance, this vessel, we're going to tell on her and her husband, we like to do this. We do this on purpose because it is important, you see, in spiritual work that spiritual leaders be vulnerable and authentic and real, and that you understand that they have clay feet. They're not pretending to be perfect. They are not. They are humans. And they want to be vulnerable in their relationship with each and all of you, so that you can have a model, an example of spiritual partnership, you see, that is imperfect, that is perfectly imperfect. So this gentleman likes to tease the vessel sometimes, because she gets all dressed up for a night like this, and makeup and hair and jewelry and this and that and so on. And he recognizes and discerns, and we would say accurately, that this is some ego. Would you agree? Yes. And so she was bracing herself for this teasing comment that sometimes comes, and ready to say, so what? Yes, I see this in myself. I see this ego in myself, and it's okay. It's okay. So what? So what? Who cares? And so the way this phrase helps you is it gets rid of this type of, we will call it a religious spirit that expects perfection, you see. Anything about that? Good. So when you blow it big, just say, so what? So what? Forgive yourself, love yourself, accept yourself, and move on. There's no punishment needed, you see. You see. If an animal, if an animal eats something in the forest that makes it sick, it won't eat it again, will it? But it doesn't need to punish itself for what it's done, you see. Humans are the only species that insist upon punishing themselves over and over and over for their perceived mistakes. And so in this, we hope that you can see yourselves the way we see you, as perfectly imperfect, always accepted. And this is what we want to say to you tonight. There's nothing that you can do to disqualify you from high service. All right, so why? Why is a strategy for self-inquiry. So, whatever's happening to us, whether it's a work relationship or something going on at home, whatever arises, the secret to freedom is looking inside, seeing what programs that we have that are hanging us up, and dealing with it in the internal space. And then it begins to shift in the external circumstance. So for instance, in this situation going on with me this week, I knew that because this person was coming at me with judgment and attack, about an obligation to a family member. And it was their perception that I had not fulfilled my obligation well enough, good enough, and so on. And so I know enough to know that if that's coming at me from the outside, there's something in me that's attracted it. There's something inside of me that feels guilty and wants to be punished. And so when I really was able to take their words and meditate on them later and think about them, I thought, yep, I feel guilty. I feel guilty that I haven't done the right things, all the things in this situation. And so the truth is, I shouldn't feel guilty, and I haven't done anything wrong, but my programming, the programming of my ego is causing me to feel this guilt. And so that's why I invited attack and I invited judgment. So see, the truth was, it wasn't so much that this person was judging me, it's that inside I'm judging myself. I'm judging myself that I've not done enough. And the thing that came. So whatever's coming up for you, if you can, if you have the grace, sometimes we just blow it and we react and do what we do, and that's okay. It's our programming. It's not a big deal. You know, an app on your phone that's a calculator is going to calculate numbers. And an app on your phone that is for a GPS is going to give you a map. So we have these programs and they do what they do. So we don't need to be so hard on ourselves. So on the why, the way this works is, let's see if Judah can give us a, all right, I wanted you guys help me. Give me a situation and we're going to work the why game with it. Yeah,
First, so that person gave you a gift.
Good, thank you. And this is how the fruit of all this stuff with Judah is from Chuck, because Chuck said, "Did you tell her thank you?" I was like, oh! But he's right?
Yeah.
And you know, I actually did go back and email and say thank you with hearts. Because he's right, it's a gift, right? All right, somebody give me a situation of something that you feel, and we're going to play the why game with it. Is anybody feeling brave? Something challenging? Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know if this is going to work, but
We'll try it.
I lost my 15-year partnership with my favorite dog, and now my other young dog is very sick also, so I'm in a lot of pain mourning one and in a lot of fear about the other one.
All right, good. Okay, so close your eyes, sweetie. All right, put your hand over your heart. You guys send her some energy just with your hands, some love. Okay. All right, so just make a one statement about your first dog, okay? About the one that passed. Just say, I lost my, just tell me just a simple statement about what happened.
I lost my best friend.
I lost my best friend. Okay, why? Just say whatever comes up for you.
It was her time.
And why was it her time?
Because this is temporary.
And why is this temporary?
Because it's not real.
And what is real? Why? What is real for the soul that's your dog?
I don't know.
Okay, so where is your sweet dog's soul?
I hope she's all around me.
And why? Why do you hope she's all around you?
Because I miss her.
And why do you miss her?
Because I love her.
And why do you love her?
Because she loved me.
Because she loved you. And why did she love you? Why did she love you?
I guess she was meant for me.
Yeah, and I hear Judah saying she loved you because you're very lovable. Because you're lovable. Good. All right, now let's make a statement about your second dog, sweetie.
I never knew I could love a boy like that before.
And why?
He's the first boy that unconditionally loved me.
And why? Why is he the first boy that unconditionally loved you?
I don't know.
Were there other boys that didn't unconditionally love you?
Absolutely.
Tell me about that.
I almost feel like when I open my heart to love, I'm hurt. And so I've always been afraid to open my heart. And when I do, I end up being hurt.
Okay. And why do you end up being hurt when you open your heart?
Because I'm vulnerable.
And why are you vulnerable?
Because I'm human.
Because you're human. And why are you human?
Apparently, I wanted to have this experience.
Mm-hmm. And why did you want to have this experience?
It would be boring only being one thing.
Mm-hmm. Good. How's that feel? Any better?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Good. Anybody else?